What's up, people? Welcome back to the Guardian File. Before I go any further, make sure you hit that like and sub button. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Today's story is about inmate Mario Edwards. Mr. Edwards was 21 years old when this incident happened. Mr. Edwards seemed to be involved in almost 90% of every negative thing that happened at the prison. Now, Mr. Edwards, for some odd reason, seemed to be connected to every single negative thing that happened at the institution. Maybe not everything, but at least 90%. Now, one of those things, negative things that he was involved with, for the most part, seemed to be drugs. Because whether you want to believe it or not, inmates have options, access to some of the same things that we have out here in the public, especially whatever drugs they want to get their hands on. Now, inmate Edwards most likely has used every type of drug that's been created. Whether it was marijuana, coke, heroin, crack, whatever drug you could possibly think of, they have access to it. Now, the difference is it may cost them a lot more than it would you on the street, but they still do have access to it. Now, marijuana seemed to be his drug of choice. But the downfall to using that, aside from it being illegal and against policy, the downfall of that is that it's going to show up in your drug test. Now, this inmate was known to get high a lot and seemed to be under the influence of something every single day. Now, since he's known or was known for using a lot of drugs, his drug tests would come around more often than anyone else's. Now, not only that, but he seemed to fail the drug test almost each and every time, even though he knew that the drug test was coming around every week. Now, since he was constantly getting caught, failing drug tests, and ends up going to special housing, the lockdown unit. Now, even while he's in the lockdown unit, he's still able to get his hands on these drugs, whatever drug he wants. But he wanted to make sure he didn't piss hot or fail his drug test because he knew it was coming around often. So he wanted to make sure he got high. He had no plans of stopping because he loved it. And since he got tired of getting locked down inside the prison of another prison, he got tired of it. But at the same time, he had no plans of stopping. It was too good for him, or too good to him, for him to stop. But he knew he didn't want to go back to lockdown. He knew he didn't want to get more time added on to his sentence. So he had to figure out a way, I guess you could say, to have your cake and eat it too. Never understood that, but it seems like one of the situations where that would fit. This is when the drug K2 came into play. Synthetic marijuana. Most importantly, it won't come up in your piss test. So you can do it as much as you want without having to worry about getting caught, at least through taking a drug test. See, I'm pretty sure a majority of you would assume that synthetic marijuana most likely will give you the same effect of real marijuana. If you believe that, then you're dead wrong. Now, I know the average person who's listening to this, maybe it's their first time even hearing anything about K2 or synthetic marijuana. See, what most people will believe is that synthetic marijuana will give you the same effect that actual marijuana gives you. But in all actuality, the effects seem to be the exact opposite of what a person would think, because it's supposed to be like marijuana. And see, this is what all these inmates thought also. So, inmate Edwards decides to use strictly K2, knowing that it's not going to turn up in his urine test. Nothing else is strictly K2. And again, thinking it's going to have the same effect that marijuana does. He got brought back to reality real quick. You see, inmate Edwards used it so much that he started, whenever walking around, he started to resemble a crackhead. And everything else that comes along with being a crackhead. You see, a crackhead doesn't care what he does, what he says, how he looks. All they're worried about is getting that one hit. That one hit that gave them the same effect that they got the first time they used it. Now, even though that's the goal of a drug user, we all know that it doesn't work that way. They'll never find the same high that they had for the first time. But even though they're never going to be able to match that same high, they'll try their hearts out to do it. Now, crackheads or junkies do not care when and where they decide to use their crack. It can be anywhere. It can be at church, your mama's house, your house, school, etc. Now you see, because Mr. Edwards, inmate Edwards, got to the point where he had that same mentality. Didn't give a damn when he used it. Got to the point he didn't even give a damn whether the police were around. This man would not try to hide it at all. Didn't care what the repercussions were or anything. Now, even though he didn't care, he still wasn't getting caught doing it. Still passing his drug test. But there was one day where he got so comfortable and the police ended up catching him. Well, let me take that back. They actually tried to catch him because he ran away. I don't know where he thought he was going, but he ran away.